of you that are familiar with my area up in North Canton, there's a place called the Strip. They don't allow guns anywhere around there. So I went to the Walmart, had my firearm on me. Some old lady approached me, and I was in the outdoor section. She approached me. She goes, "Sir, I'm all about guns too, but you know they're not allowed to. You're not allowed to have a firearm in this place." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Where was the sign on the door?" Well, she says, "Well, it's really not on the door." She goes, "It's a little sign that's on the corner of the road as you turn in here." I said, "Nope." I said, "That's not going to hold." I said, "Man, that's how liberals get you. That's how liberals get you." I said, "By law, if they don't want me to bring in a firearm, it has to be clearly visible on the door of the entrance of the establishment. Bottom line, you can't have a little placard down the road on the corner. It doesn't work that way, you know." And I said, I will never listen to that. I won't listen to that garbage. All right, this is what we have, people. These gun laws do nothing but stifle our rights to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and heaven forbid a stranger. Criminals don't care about the damn gun laws. Let's get that straight. Now, one thing I also wanted to bring up here, and I've made mention of this before. We did a couple of shows before about Schaeffer Cox. I've done a live video a few times maybe about Schaeffer Cox, but I want to do an update with this gentleman because I wrote him some time back and he wrote me back. I just got it yesterday. A letter from him yesterday in the mail, you know, and when I read his letter, it was a bit of a tearjerker to me, you know, right? Not because I'm a pansy, because I was so angry with what he's been through, you know. And for those of you that are unaware of Schaeffer Cox, I'm going to paint the picture here for you, okay? This guy was, and in many respects still is, a great orator. He's just a great public speaker. He has a charisma, a great leader, a phenomenal leader. He had 3,500 militia following him. That's how great of a public speaker he was, an orator. So he had like 3,500 militia underneath him. He was rubbing elbows with the likes of Ron Paul, all right, running for office. I mean, he had a very, very, let's say, interesting future ahead of him, right? Very, very positive a future ahead of him. Well, he started outing how the pedophilia ring going on within the Alaskan officials, because we all know, come on, we know this. We know there's pedophilia going on everywhere within this country. We know it. So he was outing the pedophilia ring within the Alaskan officials, and the feds didn't like that. They didn't like that one bit. Okay, so with that being said, trying to scroll down here. With that being said, they didn't like that. They set him up with two informants, okay, which is, the feds are really infamous for doing stuff like that. They set him up. All right, now, he didn't just go to prison, people. You need to understand, there are 2 CMUs in the United States, okay? What a CMU is, it's a communications management unit. They are unconstitutional, and even though they're unconstitutional, they're still supposed to, there's still a protocol, a process they have to go through. Do you see what I'm saying? Where the people get to look at it, the people investigate it, the people check it out, blah, blah. None of that was even taken care of. Aside of the fact that they never went through the protocol, it's unconstitutional. Now, you'll never guess what kind of people are held in these CMUs. The people that are held in these CMUs are political prisoners. They're the environmental activists. All right, the people that are held in these CMUs, they're not pedophiles, murderers, rapists, you know, they're nothing like that. Gangbangers. Nobody in there is like that is being held in these CMUs. All right, they nickname it Little Guantanamo because it's a prison within a prison. Okay, and in the general prison population, you have all of these pedophiles, you have all of these murderers, you have all of these rapists, you have all the really nasty bad eggs, and in the center of that you have a CMU, and that's what the political prisoners are, the environmental activists. Now, they don't even get, you know, and if memory serves me right, I think the general prison population gets about 300 minutes a month, if memory serves me right, all right, for phone calls. Okay, these guys are lucky to have 15 to 30 minutes a week. That's it. They're lucky to have that. A lot of their constitutional rights are stricken from them within the CMU, and they're only political prisoners. They're only environmental activists. Do you understand what I'm saying here? not allowed to worship their creator, whatever creator they want, or they see that's their creator. They're not allowed to worship their creator. They're not allowed to hug anybody. If they have a family member come in there, they can't hug their child. They can't hug their wife. You understand? Every single day that Schaeffer Cox and these other political prisoners are in jail, every single day he has to find a new way to survive. This is how screwed up it really is. These CMUs are never mentioned. Are never mentioned. Now, I did a little homework on these CMUs. Now, the CMU's bottom line, the chain of command goes right to the FBI, but it stops at the FBI director. So who calls the shots after the FBI director? Nobody seems to know, and I can't seem to find out past that. I can't find out past that. You know, we sit there and we talk and complain about the Hammonds and the Bundys and the Lowells and all these political prisoners that are going on. You know, we have a lot more political prisoners than just them. We have political prisoners like Schaeffer Cox, who was doing nothing more than outing the pedophilia ring going on with the Alaskan officials, and the feds didn't like this. They didn't just throw him in a regular prison complex, in the prison population. They actually threw him in a CMU, and they had taken away every single one of his God-given natural-born rights, just so they can shut him up and not tell the truth. And I'm going to give you another example. Now, I have another friend of mine that I'm really worried about. Let's just say his name is John Doe for privacy's sake. All right. And you guys, a lot of you have heard this story before. Okay. He was in Indiana. Long story short, he was approached by Child Protective Services, and they were asked him to write off his rights to his 4-year-old daughter. And he didn't know he even had a 4-year-old daughter. That was hidden from him, from an ex-girlfriend. He had no idea he had a daughter. He didn't want to give up his rights. So he fought for his daughter, got cut after 2 court dates. He got full custody of his daughter. And for years, him and his daughter created a relationship. She was fine. She was flourishing. Everything was great. CPS didn't like that. So guess what? The mayor over there where my John Doe, my friend, was at, her husband is on the SWAT team. So this judge who was using different social security numbers in her name, a judge, and you heard me right, was using different social security numbers in her own name, sent her husband, who was on a SWAT team with his buddies, the SWAT team, to the house, destroy everything, and physically take that baby away. He tried to fight for his daughter, didn't want to work. It didn't work. Nothing was working. Nobody would listen to him. He begged and pleaded with then Mike Pence, who is now the Vice President of the United States, because he was governor of Indiana during that time. Begged and pleaded with Mike Pence to help him with his daughter. There was no right that they took his daughter away from him in that manner. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mike Pence didn't do anything. Mike Pence wrote the guy off. So my buddy John Doe filed petitions with the courts and stuff like that, trying to fight for his daughter. And he named in the court documents everybody that's dropped the ball on him, whether it was this judge over here, this attorney over there. He begged and pleaded with Mike Pence over there, considering he was the governor, and Mike Pence didn't do anything. He was just naming off people in this court order and explaining his story, everything that's going on. You know what happened? Based solely on the fact that he named Mike Pence, he didn't blame Mike Pence for the abduction of his daughter. He just simply said that Mike Pence, who was a governor, I begged and pleaded, he wrote me off. Even the governor won't do anything. It's basically all he said. He wasn't blaming Mike Pence for the abduction. That's not the point here. But then that's when the feds came to his house, literally destroyed his truck, destroyed his vehicle, busted every window in his house, stole every single legal document. Thank God the guy was smart enough, made copies. Stole every document. Charged him with 6, I think it was like 5 or 6 counts of felony whatever. He didn't do anything, but they finding all kinds of stuff. Guess what? They arrested him. You know what they did with him? Do you know what they did with my buddy John Doe? They transported, in Indiana, they transported him to a prison in Kentucky under an alias name. You didn't know that, did you? Then they transported him to another prison in another state under an alias name. This was all done during the Trump-Pence campaign. You want to know why they shut him up and made him an alias and put him in a few different prisons during the whole Trump-Pence campaign? How well would it have looked for Trump if his vice president had to be called back to his state in a child abduction case that happened in his state and he didn't do anything about it? How well would that have looked for Trump? That wouldn't have looked well whatsoever. And you people, you can mention all here, hate me all you want, and make your comments. The facts are the facts, and you can't deny the facts. These are facts. And I've got copies of everything. What I'm concerned about right now, and I'm not giving my buddy's name out because I'm concerned because I haven't heard anything from him. Nothing. And I've been leaving voicemails. I haven't heard anything from this. What happened to my buddy in Indiana? What happened to my buddy? That's what I question. You see my point here? I'm not trying to digress into a different topic here, but this is what I'm talking about. These people, these thugs, I guess you can call them. I mean, I'm trying to keep my cool here. These thugs, these assholes, if you will, ass clowns of this pathetic de facto once constitutional republic government. They do what they want, when they want, how they want, where they want. That's what they do. No different than the Nazi Gestapos. They do whatever they want to do, and they don't care whose toes they step on. And we have to understand this. This is no joke. That goes right in the long lines of what I was saying about what happened to Schaeffer. They shut him up. They shut him up because you guys don't seem to understand this pedophilia ring, this child trafficking ring in America, going on here in America. It's bigger than what you think. It's a lot bigger than what you think. They don't want someone like Schaeffer Cox ruining that. They don't want someone like Schaeffer Cox ruining it about the sex trafficking going on. They don't want people like my buddy John Doe, all right, talking and bringing up and stirring the pot when it comes to this child abduction, because we're all well aware that the Child Protective Services of every county, of every state, within all 50 states of this country, is the largest child trafficking ring going on in this world. Bottom line, hands down, it's the largest one. We know this. All right, this is what's really disgusting. This is what's disgusting. Like I said, I'm not trying to digress. I'm just giving you an example of Schaeffer Cox's issue and my buddy John Doe. All right, and like I said, I'm not giving his name because I want to find out where my buddy's at. I need to research, and if I have to go to Indiana, I will go to Indiana. I don't care. I want to find out where my buddy is at. I want to find out what happened to my brother. But going back to Schaeffer Cox, this is what I just got a letter from him. All right, I know there's a little bit of a glare, and I apologize. He writes on here, "Fear not, Joe," and I don't fear. But I want to read you his letter, if you'll permit me to read Schaeffer Cox. This is what he recently had to say to me, and I got to give a copy of this to my sister Angela Clemens, Aaron Davis, Brian Christie, because they have a website that they're going to put this on. All right, but he clearly tells me. He says, "This is Schaeffer." He goes, "Dear Joe, this is Schaeffer Cox. As you know, I'm in this black site prison for political prisoners. It's some private contractor deal that the CIA uses to get around the laws that prohibit them from operating on U.S. soil. There are only 38 prisoners in here, in the CMU. There's only 38 prisoners. Nearly all of them were snatched up by the CIA in other countries, but now they are loading this place up with innocent American patriots who love freedom, prosperity, and the 4th of July. This is a bad, bad thing." He further says, "The Federal Bureau of Prisons has rules. This place does not. It's run by deep state gangsters who are so used to ignoring the law that they think it's okay to just set up a little incommunicado prison and dump their hostages there. They block people's access to courts and lawyers, won't let us write to embassies, our senators, congressmen, or the press. And if I tried to tell you what all goes on here, I'd lose all contact with everyone. The saddest part is that the courts kind of know about this place, but they are so intimidated by the gangster state that they look the other way. A few senators started asking questions about this place, and they got told to mind their own damn business or else. Unsurprisingly, the senators bowed their heads and slinked off like the weenies they are. So anyway, I said all of that to say that it took me this long to get to write you back. I'll keep this short. I take it you know my case pretty well. What can I say? I never did anything wrong or illegal. I just spoke out against the pedophiles, not knowing that was the deep state's main thing. I've said that before. They railroaded me through a show trial of lies so fast it made me dizzy. And now I'm in a secret prison, all because I had a heart. He further says, I'm not in prison for doing bad things. I'm in prison for telling powerful people what not to do. The fact that they were going to such great lengths to keep my story from getting out tells us where we must attack. They are horrified of the truth, so we need to shout it out, from the rooftops. People know the truth when they come across it. I'm having a hard time reading his writing. And once they do, they can't easily go back to eating lies. I'm glad you are on my corner. We have chosen humanity over the globalists, a goofy cult of self-worship followed by self-destruction. And he says in caps here, caps right along here, he says, I love people, I love all humanity. And even though I'm in prison because of it, I still think I'm on the right side. I won't give my heart to evil. I won't betray myself, and I'll keep believing in mankind. I haven't lost my reverence for life, love, or freedom. They will make a comeback sooner than you think. He signs it, let's roll, Schaeffer Cox. Now, that's the letter I had received from Schaeffer Cox, who's in that CMU, who was unjustly prisoned, you know, because he was educating people about the Constitution, a lot like what I do, all right? Now, Schaeffer Cox and I do a lot of the same thing, except for the way I see it with Schaeffer Cox, you know, we both talk about the deep state. We both talk about pedophilia. We both talk about the Constitution. We both try to educate people, okay? But we do it from different angles, okay? He's more diplomatic about it. I'm more of the military. I'm in your face screaming it, all right? That's the only difference. We're kind of like different angles about this, all right? I will always support Schaeffer Cox. My radio network, the Patriot Watch Radio Network, and whether I do the truthful rhetoric, doesn't matter. We will always support Schaeffer Cox, all right, and do whatever we have to do to make things right. Because I'm telling you right now, this is the deep state, people. You know, when my co-host Jay and we talk about the deep state, these are prime examples of what we're talking about, whether it's my buddy John Doe or whether it's with Schaeffer Cox. Or whether it's Senate Bill 719 in Oregon, where they want to go ahead and take your Second Amendment rights away from you with no due frickin' process, and to boot, it's even an ex parte. This is what we talk about. This is what we speak about. This is deep state. This is deep state. And I wanted to go over further about something else here, about this pedophile junk, because I'm telling you right now, God, I am over this pedophile shit. I am over it. All right. I mean, it was brought to my attention from my sister Ann Cunningham, and I hope you don't mind me, you know, mentioning your name, sister. I know you're on here watching, you know, but it was brought to my attention by Ann Cunningham, you know, and we talked briefly about it. She had spoke to and I have my notes here, so forgive me, Sergeant Jones of the Sex Offender Registry Enforcement in Franklin County, Ohio, my state, okay? She had also gotten a call back because she was calling different representatives from states, her state, surrounding states, whatnot. She also got a reply back from Marlene, United States Representative Marlene Anielewski, I think is how you pronounce her last name. Now, this Marlene Anielewski, I don't know how you pronounce that, but all she said, all of the assistant to that representative said is they'll let the other representatives know about an issue I'm going to tell you about right now, and they're going to see if they can't make things different. All right, but the Sergeant Jones of the Sex Offender Registry Enforcement of Franklin County, Ohio, my state, clearly said and told my friend Ann, there is no law on the books to keep sex offenders away from outside of schools and daycares. No law. Wait a minute. Okay. Now, I understand that when a sex offender, you have to register. Okay, you have to appear, you know, and make yourself known every so often, check in every so often. All right, In many cases, neighborhoods are told of a sex offender in your neighborhood. Hell, there are even apps you can download for your phone that lets you know where sex offenders are, right? A lot of us have it on there. I know I do. But you mean to tell me there's so many different things for these sex offenders, but there's no law in the books that keeps these sex offenders away from the schools and daycare? There's not one law? Now, these are coming from law enforcement and representatives. This isn't just, a friend here and I, or here and there talking back and forth, and we're just guesstimating. We don't really know if there's a law. It's not like that. These are coming from law. This is coming from law enforcement and United States representatives that are admitting there is no law to keep pedophiles away from daycares and schools. Now, you might sit there and think, well, you know what? They have the right to travel. They have the right to go here. They have the right to go there, and they do. They do. But because there's no law saying that they have to stay away from schools or daycares, what does that mean? I could just picture right now, sex offenders just parked there on the other side of the school, just watching, and then following the kids as they're walking home from school, or maybe even going to school. Do you see my point here? You're allowing them. It's no different than, look, when this whole SCOTUS and this knuckle-dragging, flamboyant idiot, I'll just say, no, I'll keep it cordial, of an ex-president we had, vomit, okay, when he lit up the White House in gay colors, and SCOTUS turned around and said, that, marriage and the gays and everything like that. You remember it going, and this whole transsexual thing, and remember the North Carolina, the bathrooms and neutral bathrooms, all this garbage going on. Remember all that? All that hoopla garbage, all right? How many men do we hear? Many of us know of personal cases we've heard in our immediate areas, or we've heard it on the news, all that kind. How many men, when they passed all that garbage, how many men got busted dressing as a woman just so they can go into the women's bathroom and take pictures of women and children? We know that happened on many occasions. And the reason I brought that up is because you have to understand that wasn't fighting for somebody's rights. You were simply enabling pedophiles, enabling rapists to go into women's bathrooms to molest and rape, possibly hurt, or maybe even in some points kill a little girl or a woman. Do you understand my point? You enabled them. This is no different than this in this case right here. You are enabling the pedophiles by not having a law that says you have to stay away from the schools and away from the daycares. There is no law. And again, this goes right back, this whole pedophilia thing goes right in, and it all ties in. Think about it. A portion of that ties into the whole Schaeffer Cox thing, because he was outing the pedophilia ring with the Alaskan officials. They wanted to shut him up. We know that there is this whole pedophilia thing going on in this country is huge. It's disgusting. It's incredibly disgusting, and it is so deep. We just heard, it wasn't that long ago, just maybe a month ago, if that, 228 people were arrested in California for a huge child sex trafficking ring going on there. All right? One was a monk. They didn't give out the names. One was a monk. They said something about somebody else, but they said the majority of the people that were arrested were all household name celebrities. Household name celebrities. And then guess what? You didn't hear nothing else about it. It was hush. You try to research it, you can't really find much about it. You try to ask questions, nobody has an answer. Nobody knows anything about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's because this, whether some people want to attribute this pedophilia, sex trafficking thing with Satanism and the devil and devil worship and all that, and how the good and the bad and the revelations, is neither here nor there. All right. I mean, yes, it's all important. I'm not trying to downplay it, but my point being here, all right, this is sick crap, and this whole pedophilia stuff, it's got its tentacles deeply woven into the very fabric of this country. I mean, it really, really, really does. It really does. And I'm telling you right now, you know, I'm going to tell you right now, this therapy they have for pedophiles, there is no scientific evidence to substantiate that therapy actually works for pedophiles. None. There is no scientific evidence that this mental castration pill works for pedophiles. Don't you find it odd that somebody that has an ounce of weed or a couple ounces of weed doing like life in prison while murderers, rapists, and pedophiles get parole? Don't you find that odd? It pisses me off. It really pisses me off. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's sick and disgusting for any adult, man or woman, to rape a child, molest a child, because you're ruining that child mentally for life. The body can heal. The body can heal. The mind, sometimes the mind doesn't heal. You know what's a good cure for pedophilia? That's a good cure for pedophilia. This right here can stop pedophilia right in its tracks. That will stop pedophilia. Your mental castration pill doesn't stop pedophilia. Your therapy doesn't stop, pedophilia. Actually, physically castrating the men is not going to stop pedophilia. It's not just a sexual thing. It's a mental thing. Think about that for a moment. Yeah, I brought out my pistol, people, because I'm telling you right now, that is the only cure for any pedophile out there. Any pedophile. You touch a child, one bullet, one shot, one kill. Very simple process. I am so sick and tired of hearing these pedophiles getting away with murder while millions of kids are suffering for the rest of their lives because all mentally. They're mentally suffering for the rest of their lives because some sick bastard pervert of a man couldn't keep it in his pants. And in many cases, women are just as guilty too. It goes on both sides, people. Both sides. Men and women on large scales are raping our kids. Are raping our kids. So my advice to a lot of you parents out there, there are a lot of these programs. In today's day and age in technology, you have to be careful. Be careful. Because there are so many different apps, so many websites, so many whether it's for tablets or phones or laptops or whatever, they target our children. They target our children and suck them in there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Be careful when it comes to what your child is doing online. Oh, that's one topic that I seriously take personal. I have 4 boys because pedophilia can happen to boys and pedophilia can happen to girls. It doesn't matter your gender. Pedophiles don't care about your gender, guys. They don't care. I look at all 4 of my boys. If somebody touched one of my boys in an improper manner, so help me God, I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6 because I am shooting somebody. You're right, Marianne. Pedophilia is demonic. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's gross. Now, I wanted to move on here. I wanted to, a thought had crossed my mind here. A thought crossed my mind. Just yesterday, I spent a lot of the day, and it crossed my mind. I was thinking about it, okay? And it was really weird because when I was thinking about it, a good brother of mine had messaged me on Facebook, okay, on this messenger thing. And he said, hey, and he threw this idea. He goes, what about this, that, and the other? And I'm like, you know what? It's funny that you say that because I was just thinking that very same thing. And I'm going to explain to you what it was I was thinking and what he brought it up. Now, I was just thinking yesterday, I was like, wait a minute. I said, what about, it started with the Confederate flag,